With the heating up of the 2016 U.S. presidential election, questions are being raised about the candidates' temperaments, particularly the temperament of Donald Trump. Now, I submit that it's not so much which temperament Donald Trump or any other public figure is running, but rather a question of how integrated, how healthy of a temperament Donald Trump has. The Enneagram is an ancient system with 9 numbers around a diagram. Ennea means 9. Today, it's used as a highly effective personality typing system. In the personality Enneagram teachings, there are 9 core or archetypal temperaments, 9 Ennea types. Towards each of the 9 Ennea types is its own worst enemy, and it's also, when integrated, a gift to the world. Using the system of the Enneagram, I conclude that Donald Trump is running the Type 8 pattern, what I call the intense protector. The Type 8 Enneagram pattern habitually dampens down pain sensitivity, and they do this in order to harness the power of anger, to harness the kind of raw life force and to discharge it in the situation, in the environment. 8s do this in order to feel alive, to feel a sense of presence. Hey, I'm here, I matter, I can make an impact in the world. The irony is that the more that the 8 dampens down this pain sensitivity in order for literally the body to handle this raw vitality, this raw energy moving through it, the more that the 8 then needs to amp up the anger energy in order to feel alive. So 8s get caught in this kind of cycle of chasing aliveness, which is the passion of the 8 called lust. 8s at their core can believe that this is a dangerous world and we need to fight to survive. And in order to fight to survive, we need to be strong and not weak. And so 8s focus a lot of attention on being the strong one, the one that can actually get things done. And they can really deny and push down any of their own vulnerabilities and weakness. And they can either disdain weakness in other people, or they can project their weaknesses out on other people in order to protect them. In this interview clip with George Stephanopoulos, Donald Trump lifts up this focus on strong versus weak at the core of his personality style.
So you won the ratings war in the last night. Hillary Clinton's
by
speech,
millions, George, by millions,
couple
right?
million, it's true.
3.
Hillary Clinton's speech, 22 direct mentions of your name, 78 references, very tough, including this one hit on your temperament. A man you can bait with a tweet is not a man we can trust with nuclear weapons. She quoted Jackie Kennedy, suggesting you're a little man moved by fear and pride.
She's a very dishonest person. I have one of the great temperaments. I have a winning temperament. She has a bad temperament. She's weak. We need a strong temperament. And that's all it is. I have a strong temperament. I know how to win.
Polls do show some concern about this, that whether you can be trusted with the nuclear codes.
Well, I think that's probably because Hillary, that's all they talk about is temperament. I think I have a great temperament. I beat 16 very talented people, and I've never done this before. You don't do that with a bad temperament. I'm leading her in the polls, as you probably have noticed. And I think I have a great temperament. I have a temperament where I know how to win. She doesn't know how to win. She's not a winner. She doesn't know how to win. And this country, if they choose her, this country will not be in good shape. She said other things in her speech that were, really wrong. She said Donald Trump during the campaign didn't know how to campaign or something. In the meantime, I beat 16 people, and I'm beating her. She lies a lot, and she should tell the truth. I honestly believe if she told the truth, because she made some reference to my campaigning, I've had a flawless campaign. You'll be writing books about this campaign, and yet she's criticizing my campaign. Now, her campaign, she couldn't beat Bernie. Okay.
Well, she did beat him.
Well, barely.
In the blog post, I write more about Donald Trump's comment that he has a winning personality style. Suffice it to say for now that 8s like to win in order to feel powerful, to feel in control, to impose their sense of what's right on a situation. Because 8s can sometimes believe that they actually have the only truth, the only right way to see and do things. And they want to bring that truth about to create a sense of order and peace and stability in the world, or at least their sense of order and stability. Closely related to this lust for life, this search for aliveness, is the 8's focus on justice and fairness. It's as if the 8 is saying, somehow I didn't get my due. I didn't get the respect or the time or the attention or the energy that was fairly due to me. Consider this set of clips compiled by the Washington Post.
It's very unfair, the 1237. The reason it's very unfair, and I think I'll get there. But the reason it's very unfair is the following. When I started, there were 17 candidates.
But the questions asked of me were much, much more difficult and poignant and really unfair than other people were.
I think my questions were, somewhat unfair, but it's fine. I was okay with it.
But the fact is, I had very, very, I think, unfair questions, and other people had very easy questions.
And I think it's unfair to the viewers because it's too much to watch, and they're doing it because they want to make more money.
When Megyn Kelly didn't ask me a question, she made a statement last time. I thought it was inappropriate. Everybody said I won the debate.
I got a very unfair question from somebody, but we don't even talk about that.
But you may have groups in there that are totally fine, and it would be very unfair. So give me a list of the groups, and I'll let you know.
Okay. I think it's very unfair that these really, in many cases, professional, in many cases, sick protesters can put cars on a road.
Because he's not taking from Cruz, he's taking from me. And I say to myself, it's unfair because Marco could have stayed.
Oh, it's just the media again. I get the most unfair media.
Our Republican system is absolutely rigged. It's a phony deal.
But the Colorado thing was very, very unfair. And I thought Louisiana was very unfair. I won Louisiana.
One of the gifts of the Type 8 pattern is that they can feel on a gut level into energetic imbalance. This gives rise to their sense of justice. They can track quite naturally who has power in any given situation and how is that power being used. Is it being used fairly? And so often the focus of attention is, did the 8 him or herself get a fair deal? Now this can tend to overfunction to the point where the 8 is seeing injustices constantly and laying blame and responsibility for them. And this is what gets the 8 caught into revenge cycles. They can have to respond to every sense of injustice that they see or perceive. So much so that they're actually spending a lot of their time and energy in these responses and actually creating more enemies through this activity than perhaps were there in the first place. And I think some probably Trump supporters and maybe even some of his advisors are suggesting that Trump maybe not spend so much time and energy responding to every tweet or to respond to every print or media outlet that is saying something challenging to him. These same patterns can manifest very beneficially in Type 8s who are more healthy, more integrated. Type 8s can be incredibly powerful forces for good. They can be agents of social justice. They can really move and shake things in a system. They can really move worlds in order to make things better for people. And Martin Luther King, who is often described as a Type 8, once said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And President Obama said that it only bends when we actually put our hands on that arc, when people do it together. Well, Type 8 is one of those hands that's really heavy on that arc of justice, when in fact they're more integrated. Type 8s have the strength and the charisma to bring people together, to mobilize them for the kind of fundamental change that so often is needed in society. With respect to the 8 propensity to protect the weak, consider this clip from Donald Trump's acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention.
As your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology. Believe me. And I have to say, as a Republican, it is so nice to hear you cheering for what I just said. Thank you.
Trump's speaking style. It's dripping with intensity. And it's this intensity, of course, that helps the 8 to make a big impact. It's anger energy that's underlying this style of speaking. In fact, he went on with this intensity for the 70 plus minutes of his convention speech. And one reporter I heard who was on the floor say that the energy was just so much that it was just wave after wave pounding down on the audience of this kind of energetic intensity. And this is pretty characteristic of the Type 8s to speak in an intense fashion in whatever style they speak in, although of course Trump's example in the convention speech is a pretty extreme one. Trump's promise to do everything in his power to protect the LGBT community from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology is classic Type 8. And it's easy to perhaps overlook the heart that's actually behind this statement. And it's easy to do that because, frankly, as a gay man, I don't think that the LGBT community only wants protection of our lives, and that being only protection from foreign hateful ideology. But we want a more robust, full-throated endorsement, celebration of our lives, affirmation of our lives, and certainly at the barest minimum, full and equal protection under the law. And yet, I think for Trump, who's clearly running the Type 8 pattern, this promise to protect is actually coming from the heart, that this is actually one of the ways in which 8s can express their tenderness and their care toward other people, is that they're going to protect them. That's what 8s do. Another Type 8 quality in this video, perhaps more subtly demonstrated, is Trump's rebelliousness, his flouting of political correctness. Keep in mind this Republican National Convention is the one that just passed the most anti-LGBTQ platform ever. And many of the folks in the audience are probably people who have spent much of their lives and their political careers working against the LGBTQ agenda. And yet here's Trump saying what may be sort of politically incorrect for some of these people. He's saying this community is human. They deserve our protection. They are, in effect, American citizens like the rest of us. Now, he's not going nearly far enough in this, as I've already said, not for the queer community, certainly not for me, with respect to a celebration of our humanity. And yet, the impact of this statement, I don't think, should be dismissed handedly. This is a huge step forward for many of folks in the Republican Party, probably the party as a whole, and there are probably many Republicans on that floor who, when they were cheering, and Trump graciously noted their cheering for this statement, probably were relieved that Trump actually said this. And this is a way in which Trump, with his 8 energy making that impact, can actually shatter things, can disrupt things. This is Trump the disruptor that so many people who are his supporters really love, regardless of what he says, how offensive he can be, regardless of the untruth or factually incorrect statements that he peddles, that there's this sense in which he's going to be a disruptive force in Washington, D.C., which is much needed in order to shake the system up. In a blog post about presidential personalities, I write more about how Donald Trump runs the Type 8 Ennea style, Barack Obama is a Type 9, and Hillary Clinton is a Type 1. And if you're watching this in YouTube, you can find a link to that post below. You can also check out my website, livingenneagram.com, to learn more about the Enneagram teachings generally and to discover your own Ennea type.